Hey everyone, John Henry here, slingshotfutures.com, and welcome to the daily futures and crypto market outlook for tomorrow's trading. That's going to be the 31st of the month, ending out October. Starting off the week with some halfway decent movement, nothing crazy, but we did get a good amount of at least volatility today. Now, some of it might not have been that tradable, but other points there were at least something to work with. Better than not last week, but the week before where just nothing happens. We'll take it. As always, before we jump on in, make sure to swing on over to slingshotfutures.com, scroll down and click on the Join the Daily Outlook newsletter. From there, you can sign up for our free newsletter that's sent out every day, and that goes over the video that you're watching right now. But along with that, in the newsletter itself, we talk about all kinds of different things, different stocks that might be setting up, different areas of interest on futures, crypto. If it moves, it'll show up in there at some point. So it's a great newsletter to get your hands on and sign up for if you haven't done so already. Along with that, make sure to click on the live trade room subscription and trial info where you can sign up for a free 3-day trial, a guest pass, if you will, into the live trade room, so you can hang out with us for a couple days in the room. You can see our screens, you can see what we're looking to do, you can see the trades that we're looking at, how we're managing things, and just it's a great way to sit down with us for a little while, for a few days, and just kind of see how everything works out. So if you haven't done so already, make sure to sign up for that, and we'll see you in the room. Now, going into the movement for today, starting off on the euro has continued its dive lower, big drive down, and now we're finally correcting a little bit. With this amount of bearish pressure, it's very likely that we're going to see sellers want to continue this. Now, we were talking about that right there as well, where we were looking for another leg of continuation. We got that, right? Now, generally, this is a very small leg, right? We've got a monster move down, really more of a pause than anything else, and then continuation to the downside. So with that lack of, a good obvious leg, right? Those obvious swings that you're looking to see, we don't have that yet. And likely a lot of sellers will be looking for that to retest those lows. So the lows right now, the major objective, the big target that everyone has right now is back down to 60.40. Now, a couple levels of interest. Whenever we have this big spike down, a little bit of a pause and continuation, anywhere inside of that pause is an area of interest, which we're hovering around right now. But even more importantly is the top of that pause, right? That top of the pause right there, which we just trapped off of. That's going to get a lot of sellers built into the move and trying to shove the market back down. So even though we are a little bit early to the party, right, sellers coming in a little bit early off swing highs, etc., we do have a reason to believe that we might very well find a turn and continue our way down from this point forward. This level right here becomes a big line in the sand. This is where a lot of sellers are going to defend, and if we can break above it, that becomes a case of, is it going to be a fake break and we just slam right back down, use it as resistance? It's going to be a big line in the sand going forward here on the euro. Either way, sellers are building into positions here, and I am looking to do the same. But if you are a little bit more conservative, you don't want to jump in straight away, then you'd be waiting for a secondary turn so we can start breaking down some of this support in the way, kind of clear up the downside so it's going to be easier for the market to fall. Over on gold, we have a little bit of a correction, right? A good correction to the upside. They missed that major support we were looking for, of course, but with that little miss, they just missed it. They also did overshoot the bottom, and the fact that they blew off the bottom so aggressively like that shows us that we're probably going to get the same up here, and that's kind of where we're sitting right now. Now, is this the perfect area to go selling the market? Probably not. I would be looking for one more leg to the upside into a stronger area of resistance. Notably, if we look across here, right above 1280 seems to be a pretty big area, and if we put a horizontal line on there, you can see it even better. So if we mark that on 1280, right there, you can see that nice level of support and resistance coming inside of here, and that's going to be a big area that I'm really looking for. Now, we did just cycle off of that, but I would like to see them try to get above it and then fail. The same thing that happened over here, the same thing that happened over here. That's what I would rather see to really show that the buyers are stuck, because when the buyers are stuck, that makes it a lot easier for the sellers to run down and grab those lows once again. Now, we are in a short-term bull trend, so you don't necessarily want to be the first one to the party, kind of like we were talking about in the euro, but there will be conservative traders who are looking for this type of formation and looking to sell either here, or if they're aggressive right there, to drive the market back down towards at least 73.7, if not a little bit further. On crude oil for the most part, well, we have a little bit of a bull breakout, right? We've got a lot of bullish momentum to the upside. Everything is pointing higher, and a lot of buying pressure on the table for sure. Now, one major objective to the upside comes on the fact that this was such a strong breakout. Buyers are going to be looking for objectives based on that breakout speed and distance, and that means that we have an objective up here at around 55.20. That is currently. Now, that may change a little bit, and it's going to be a zone more than anything else. I would look for the lowest point to be around 55.12, but you could draw this a little bit further up as well. Either way, we're looking for about a almost 3% gain from where we are off of that low, and that's a decent move when we're talking about crude oil. Now, it might take a couple days for that to happen, but it might only take a couple candles, too. It all depends on how crude oil's feeling, it seems. This is an integral area for crude oil in that they have to decide, is this breakout going to be successful and continue, which it looks really good for, or is this going to be nothing more than a big breakout and then a failure all the way back down? That's really what we're waiting for, is that proof. Which way do they want to go? Either way, right now, buyers still have open objectives. I have every reason to believe the buyers at this point in time, so I am looking for the buy side here, and buying anywhere low is going to be okay with me. 53.74 and below, I think, is fair game for what I would consider cheap pricing for crude oil for a rally back up towards the highs. And then we've got the S&P. The S&P did poke up to a new high back on the 27th, and then cycled off of that today. A little bit of range-bound movement, not a whole lot going on. They tried to make another rally to the upside, but that failed and quickly got shut down back to the lows. Now, we are testing a 38.2% Fibonacci retracement. That by itself isn't really that important. I'm not a big fan of singular levels like that. A fib, who cares? But when you can stack fibs up or trend lines or anything on top of multiple levels of support or resistance, now we're talking, right? So if we look in a little bit closer and we see that 38.2, if we bring that line across a little bit further, we can see that that was a level of support. We have a couple levels of resistance a little further down. Resistance, support, resistance, support. We're starting to build the case here for a situation that looks pretty good for a short-term bounce. 25.65.75 is that 38.2. Maybe it goes a little bit further down to test 64.25. That was the earlier level of support or resistance. But either way, we've got a lot of stuff inside of here that's looking really good for buyers to buy this dip and shove the market back up towards the highs. Now, for the same reason why we would be looking to buy off of multiple levels of support, we would also be looking to take profit at multiple levels of resistance. We have a double top back here. We draw this forward, we can see that that candle acted as support. The gap underneath it from the weekend acted as resistance, So the major objective, 25.76. So we're looking for a decent bounce here. Buying off of the 38.2 along with that cluster of support and resistance a little bit further down, all the way up towards, if you wanted to get a little bit aggressive and try to get ahead of it so you're not stuck hanging on to the bag when everybody left, 25.76 looks pretty good for an objective on the buy side. Now, switching gears over to the cryptocurrency side of things, overall, we're getting a little bit of an interesting situation here on across the board. Now, of course, before we jump on in, let's take a look at the news for today, or for tomorrow rather. Now, tomorrow for the news calendar, it is the German holiday, the Reformation Day. And that does mean that the German markets are going to be slow to close, and that does mean that a big portion of liquidity is going to be gone tomorrow, and that can obviously have an impact. Now, along with that, tomorrow, out of the Japanese side of things, we have the Bank of Japan press conference at 2:30 in the morning. At 6 o'clock, out of the Eurozone, we have the CPI year over year for October, forecasted at 1.5%. That is the same as previous. At 8:30, we have Canadian news. That's the GDP for August, forecasted at 0.1%. At 10 o'clock, out of the U.S., finally some U.S. news. We have the CB Consumer Confidence for October, forecasted at 121, the previous 119.8. And then tomorrow afternoon at 15:30 Eastern Time, out of Canada, we have the Bank of Canada Governor Paulos speaking. So we've got some news for tomorrow, but the holiday on top of it from Germany makes things a little bit of an iffy one. We'll have to wait and see. But overall, fairly okay in terms of the news calendar. Now, back to the cryptos. We have Bitcoin over the weekend pushing back into brand new highs once again, torching into 6,300, but a couple levels of concern here. First of all, we didn't really make that impressive of a high. They weren't really able to break above it with a whole lot of conviction, and when they started pulling back, they actually used that high as a level of resistance. That's not what you want to see when you're looking for a breakout move for massive new highs or anything like that. That seems to be a lot of buyers that bought this dip down here, bought this dip here. They're all taking profit up here. They're not looking for continuation. They're starting to exit. So that could mean a couple things. First of all, buyers may be afraid that price might be stalling out at around 6,000 and having a hard time going higher. The other type of argument would be that buyers wanted to take profit because they had to buy all the way down to almost 5,000. Some may have bought down at 5,000. Why wouldn't they take profit at around 6,000, right? Now, of course, the counter argument would be, well, they did that there, but look at the correction that formed. So we have a little bit of an area of interest here. Do the buyers really want to break out, or are we stalling a little bit? Right now, it looks like we're stalling. This could just be the stall before the storm, I guess is the best way to put it. But right now, I would rather buy cheap. I don't want to buy high because the breakouts just don't seem to be sticking. And that means that I'm looking for a pullback. Now, an obvious area of pullback is going to be that big 6,000 level. That level acted as a major level of support or resistance several times. And if we can get a pullback down to that 6,000, we could easily find a nice buying opportunity to push the market back up towards 6,300 and above to keep that going. There will be buyers that are buying on swing lows. That'll be buyers that are waiting for trend line lows. That doesn't come until, well, it might be around 6,000, depending on how long it takes. But either way, buyers, I think, are going to have a hard time buying too high. They're going to be trying to buy pullbacks, whether your favorite pullback is a Fibonacci pullback or regardless, I would look to buy cheap rather than expensive right now on Bitcoin. Over on Ethereum, Ethereum is breaking out of the wedge, finally, looking really nice. I was hoping to see a little bit more of a pullback here to dip down and retest the highs of that wedge. If you look at the overall high that was made back here, they did technically retest it, but I really like to see a little more overlap than that. In this case, though, they did get the test, technically speaking, with a rally continuation to the upside. Major objective is going to be up towards around 312.50, with big objectives up at 320.82. Now, 320.82 might be a little bit of a hard one to hit, but that is going to be a primary longer-term objective for them, for the buyers at least, to try to shove the market back up. As it stands, we could be looking for a measured move off of that big drive up, right? AB equals CD type pattern, and that puts us right about in the same area. Not only do you have the 61.8% fib, you also have previous swing lows, swing highs, swing lows. Makes a lot of sense to see them cycle off of that 320.82, which is why that is the upside objective. Now, if we can get a little bit of further lift, then the next one is going to be at 333.14, but can't count the chickens before they hatch. We have to look for the next objective, and that's going to be at around 312s to 313s. Then we can start looking to go a little bit further. I would still like to see a pullback down to around 300 again. On Litecoin, Litecoin is wedging and getting a little bit stuck so far. We still have the major line in the sand above us. We're holding the 78.6 on the bottom side. We're holding major support underneath us, and now we're starting to form a level of resistance above us at around 55.80. We're just getting more and more and more and more range bound. Now, that's not to say that Litecoin won't catch a pop. I definitely think that Litecoin, again, like I've been saying, is, you know, a $150 coin come next year. But we need to break out of some of these levels of resistance that keep pushing back against the coin. It's having a hard time lifting through some of these areas. If we can break through them, we can use them as support, right? Break through it, use it as support. But until that happens, we have to be buying as cheap as possible, whether it's wedge lows, levels of support, Fibonacci's on the 786, you know, whatever your game is. Either way, though, buying cheap, I think, is definitely the way to go for Litecoin, just given the lack of conviction that we're seeing right now. It's having a hard time, and with the resistance above us, it's going to be uncomfortable to be a buyer right now rather than waiting for some better prices so you can buy as cheap as you can. Now, looking at some of the altcoins, first of all, Civic is catching a very nice bounce off of major support. We're still cycling back and forth between the range that we've been talking about for 2 weeks-ish. We found a beautiful bounce off of 27 cents, caught a rally all the way back up to 36 or 37 cents. Then we found a little bit of extra support coming in at around 30 cents, and that keeps popping price back up to 36. So we can see that the lows are getting perpetually higher, and that's showing that the buyers are getting more and more aggressive. Now, the sellers are still holding the same area, so the sellers are still putting up a good fight, but the buyers are narrowing in on them, and the sellers are running out of room. So basically what that means is sellers don't have as much room to make profit, and the buyers are going to have to buy as cheap as possible, and they're running out of room to profit as well, and we're going to have to break out at some point. Now, if we zoom out a little bit further, we are in some major areas of support coming off of the lows. We have major swing lows back from mid-September, mid-October. Now we're going in towards November, and we still have that same level of support holding. I would still love to be a buyer on any dip that comes close to 27 or 28 cents, but intermediary buyers who are a little bit more aggressive, 30 cents doesn't look terrible either. Profit taking still going on at the highs though, you know, maybe take some off the table and then look to hold a few to see if they can get that breakout move eventually. EOS, however you want to pronounce that, is also catching a beautiful breakout to the upside, buying off of that 50-cent bounce, just an absolutely gorgeous rocket to the upside, and now we're starting to pull back a little bit. Major objective for pullbacks on this one is going to be at least back to the previous swing high, which also acted as support. That's going to be around the 60-cent mark, but an obvious objective that always comes into mind when you're dealing with these 50 cents, 60 cents, 70 cents, that big dollar mark, right? Ooh, big dollar. That goes with the psychological levels that you see on all of the markets. 1,000, 1,500, 100, 10, right? Those big levels. Well, in EOS's case, that's going to be $1, and that isn't too far away. Now, it wouldn't be the first time that it's tested $1. It's actually fallen quite far below $1 after it was trading up to nearly 2 and a lot higher when it back in, well, when it first launched, or at least when it first started coming out. But this looks like a pretty big juiced up area that buyers are buying into off of 50 cents. Major objective is, of course, going to be $1. Any pullback, really, I mean, aggressive buyers are going to be buying it around 64, 65 cents. Conservative buyers are going to be buying it around 60 cents. Either way, though, buying cheap for a pullback and looking for a secondary rally makes a lot of sense right now on EOS. ETP, this one's been on our list for a while now. We're still holding that major level of support, and it's still looking really, really good. The one thing that I'm really waiting for is for a different exchange or a new exchange to list ETP. If we get that, then we're going to have some fireworks, right? Because its primary source of trading on ETP is going to be from Bitfinex, because they're basically nixing all of the US traders, well, they're going to have a little bit of a hard time, mainly due to that. So once we can start getting some US capital flowing back into ETP, we can get that dollar bump back up again. You saw what happened the last time that hit US mainstream. I would be looking for about the same thing, if not a little bit further. So ETP definitely still on my list. Same with ADA, but just waiting for that little bit of a pop that would definitely come on a listing for a new exchange. So that's going to do it for the outlook. Hopefully you found it useful. Little bits of a game plan for tomorrow's trading. That news scattered throughout the day, and a holiday on top of that from Germany can definitely throw things around a little bit. And like we always say, doesn't matter what market you're trading, you got to have a plan. So make that plan, trade the plan, follow those rules, and you'd be A-okay. Until next time, we'll see y'all then.